Well, the sixth Doctor just executed the fifth Doctor. Welcome to the Time Treadmill. I'm Ron, and these are my sweaty thoughts about Doctor Who. First of all, before I get on to the whole Colin Baker thing, I have to say what a night and day difference between the previous story and this one, where Time Flight was just a turgid, boring, non-stop exposition snooze fest that was completely nonsensical. Arc of Infinity is a masterclass in show it, don't say it. It's a story that's scattered between initially Deep Space and then Gallifrey, and then the city of Amsterdam, and the two plot threads have only just finally intersected right near the end of part 2, and even then only most tangentially. And within that, the plot elements being revealed slowly over the course of the story are all done subtly and primarily through action and setting, and not through dialogue. There are a few places where obviously some technobabble has to be thrown out to explain at least some part of the threat, but the vast majority of the dialogue is completely bereft of exposition. It's all action, character, and detail, and it is spectacular. It is so different from Time Flight, and I couldn't be happier to be onto this story. One interesting non-Colin Baker thing about this story is the entire Amsterdam plot thread that's laying out. In part 1, there's truly no explanation or linking between that plot line and the main plot line with the Doctor on Gallifrey, and features two youth backpackers who decide to spend a night in a pump station mausoleum because they don't have a hostel to stay in that particular night. And overnight, one of the two is kidnapped by something. What we don't discover until part 2 is that the missing backpacker is the nephew of Tegan Jovanka, who comes to Amsterdam to visit, having just lost her job as an airline stewardess. This means that we get Tegan back, and she finally gets out of that stewardess uniform and into civilian clothes, which is a fantastic change for her. And on that front, Nyssa will finally get a new costume in the next story, but I'll get there in a couple of days. But no, the big pleasant surprise in this story is, of course, Colin Baker. He came to the show because the casting director had noticed him the previous year appearing in a guest part in Blake 7, where he played a villain, and spectacularly so. I loved his part in Blake 7. But he caught her eye, and that led to him being brought in to play the part of Commander Maxwell, a security chief on Gallifrey. Now, Colin Baker was a fan of the show, and he was thrilled to get cast in it, but he was also therefore disappointed because it meant that he could never play the Doctor. Little did he know that in just over a year, he would wind up being the Doctor in the regeneration scene at the end of the following season. And the funny thing about Baker's performance in this episode is that he plays it like he's the lead of the show. He is strong, arch, imperious, imposing. At one point, the producer had to take him aside and explain to him that the show was called Doctor Who and not the bloke in the background who's a security guy. But the fact is that Colin Baker took this chance and played the part with gusto, and in doing so very likely parlayed his way into the role of the Doctor. It kind of reminds me of how Giancarlo Esposito got the part of Gus Fring in Breaking Bad. When he was cast to appear in an early episode, he was just supposed to be there as a community leader visiting the police station and owner of a string of chicken franchises. There was literally nothing sinister about his role as written. But when he was cast in the part, he decided to go in and portray the role as if he had some deep, dark secret to hide. And even though there was nothing in the dialogue to support it, just the pure physicality and essence of his performance made everyone sit up and think, what's going on with that guy? And just because of that acting choice, he got parlayed into the major villain for the majority of the middle part of the story, and one of the great villains in television history. And so, speaking as a very occasionally employed actor, I'm duly impressed with how Colin Baker walked on set, worked within the team, but made such an impression that they brought him back to take over the lead of the show. Good work, Colin. Now, there's a huge reveal coming in Arc of Infinity tomorrow, and I can hardly wait to talk about it, but we haven't quite gotten there today, so I will save that up and we can talk about that tomorrow.